and still, looking fixedly at the tip of his nose without looking around, without allowing his eyes to wander. So basically, the next few verses we're going to go through is almost like a practical guide to meditation, and how one should actually sit in meditation. So if those of you who were here during Guruji's speech probably heard that the head, the body and the neck should all be in one line. So that's the posture in which one should actually sit. Scientists actually say that when human beings are sat in this position, which is the erect posture of 90 degrees, with that, the attraction of gravity has its minimum strength. So therefore, it's a very good position for our bodies to sit in. You also get minimally tired when you sit like that. So if you sit when you're slouched or in a leaning position, in an obtuse angle, it's actually something that you can't sit in for a long period of time. So if you try to sit like that for a long period of time, you'll see that you won't be able to do it. And actually, what we should be able to do is sit in a straight position for longer periods of time. And the reason why we would not be able to do it not be able to sit in an obtuse angle is because the attraction of gravity begins as a stronger force upon you. Therefore, if you're able to sit in a 90 degrees angle, then you're able to sit very steadily for a long period of time, and gravity has its minimal effect. Because we don't have a habit of sitting like this, we always say, ow, my back hurts, I do it all the time. So we need to have a habit of sitting like this, and this verse uses the description of how we should have the kaya, which is the body, the shir, which is the head, and the griva, which is the neck, in one straight line. One should also be able to sit still. So that is the second word, thayaran, in the first word in the second line, and stira, which is basically to be still. So whenever we're performing a penance or jap, it's like chanting a mantra, it's actually said that what we should be doing is keeping our bodies still. So it's very necessary to do that during jap. So therefore, in the same way that a healthy mind stays in a healthy body, a steady mind will stay in a steady body. So when the body is steady, then the mind will automatically become steady. So Sri Krishna gives us advice in this verse of how we should actually fixate our eyes, and it's said here that we should look fixedly at the tip of our nose. So there are two places that are discussed in the Gita and within our yogi scriptures. The first is the tip of the nose, which is shown in this verse, and the second is actually the center of the eyebrows, which I'm sure some of you heard when Guruji was speaking about where we could focus our attention. And that's where the Ajna Chakra is. So these are the two places that you can keep your gaze fixated. There's actually a reason behind this. So each of these things are described by Sri Krishna, and it's actually been proved by scientists. The first one is that when a human being looks fixedly at the tip of his nose, he experiences what we call murchna. And this is actually a technical word which describes the path of dhyan, which is another word for meditation. So what happens is when the human starts to look slowly and starts to focus in this position, they start to experience some states which are described as samadhi, which is oneness with God, and advaita, which is non-duality. So when the eyes are opening, we actually automatically see someone else or see something else, and our mind starts to wander, which is why often when you're meditating, people say not to look. Even if you want to open your eyes, try not to, because you distract the other people. So when someone else's eyes open, you start to think about someone else or something else, whether it's with a person, an object, or a circumstance. And as soon as the mind sees someone else, then it starts to wander and think about another person. And therefore it gives our minds difficulty. It's already quite hard to train the mind. And so in meditation they say that's why we should keep our eyes closed and focus on these 2 points. When a human being looks fixedly at the tip of his nose, slowly other things start to be forgotten. So this starts to bring about a state of awakeness and duality, which actually exists on the outside, and it gets disintegrated, and one actually can attain this state of samadhi, which is oneness, and advaita, which is non-duality. Of course, we'll have difficulties at the beginning, and when you start looking at your nose, your eyes will perhaps hurt and you'll have difficulties, but the scriptures have given us solutions to these problems. And the first solution is that when your eyes start to hurt, or if you have any other difficulties, you should put honey around your eyes. And in the olden days, people used to put ghee around their eyes. I don't know if I would like to do that myself, but honey apparently cools the eyes. And the second solution is that when it's actually very hot, one shouldn't actually walk around with bare feet, because when you have a lot of heat within your feet, this starts to reach the eyes. So people who used to wear sandals made of skin would take in the heat, which would protect the heat. But now often people wear slippers which are made of plastic, and these are actually said to be damaging to the eyes. If a person does this, they're unable to meditate. So one should aim to try to look and fix their attention on the nose. As I said earlier, there's also the second point where you can fix your attention on the center of your eyebrows. And again, if you have a difficulty in doing this, the solution is that if you have a beautiful idol in your house or a picture of God, then one should focus their attention on this particular beautiful idol, because this will allow you to focus all of your attentions. Similarly to when at night time when you focus on a star and all you can see is that one beautiful star and you see nothing else. It's said here, Guruji is advising that we should focus in the same way on the idol, because we'll then be able to see that one bright star and nothing else. Often when you meditate upon stars, and people do this, they focus on that one thing and nothing else comes to their mind. And this is the beauty of meditation. This concentration becomes fixed in one place, and this kind of state becomes a habit. So we don't start looking around everywhere else, but we focus on that one beautiful thing or that particular star that we've been meditating on. The rest of the sky then looks like a blue sheet, and you can't even see any of the other single stars. This state of being focused in the scriptures has been called eka pratya avastha. So if you're sitting at home and you're focusing on a beautiful idol, you can see that and nothing else. You don't see the furniture, you don't see the walls, you can't see anyone else, you can't hear anyone else, and this is full concentration. Once you attain this eka pratya avastha, which is this state, if you start seeing other things, then this state breaks and you start to lose your focus and your mind starts to jump around like a monkey. So what we should try to do is focus on this one thing, and this state again is called eka pratya avastha. So when one person starts to have experiences of their vision being fixated and looking at one thing, slowly it's been said that they're able to see the circle of light which resides within them. This is actually the experience of people who are on the path of yoga. And indeed, some people who were here last week, I wasn't there on all 3 days, but a lot of people described seeing light. So this is eventually the goal. When one looks at it focuses on these points, they begin to see the light. And our scriptures say that as soon as one sees this circle of light, then they have no need to fix their vision on anything else, because internally they see this light. And their vision is made steady. Therefore, even with his eyes closed, he would be able to see this circle of light with his eyes closed. And he can meditate upon that. So in a way, this is why we do idol worship, because we perform penances and we meditate on God or on idols, on beautiful idols. Our minds need something to focus upon so that we become steady. And that's why we do things such as offering food to God. This is why we do Panchamurti, which is the 5 nectars: milk, yogurt, honey, sugar, and ghee. We offer flowers to God and we dress God. We bathe God, we put a tilak on his forehead and we put a garland around him, and we offer rice and light a lamp. All of these activities allow us to train our minds so that we're focusing and being fixed on God. And this is the reason behind it. We forget about everything else that we're doing at that point in time. And again, this is trying to help us attain that one state of consciousness and focus on one particular object. When we start to become steady on that moment, we are what Guruji describes as being one-pointed with our mind. And we start to begin to attain the knowledge of the soul. So Shri Krishna says in this verse that we should practice meditation without looking around and without allowing our eyes to wander. The eyes run around more than anything else. So when a person's sitting down, sometimes, I've seen this before, that you look at someone and their eyes are wandering all over the place, and then they begin to get really tired. So many thinkers have actually said, that one actual particular Western thinker has said that after going through years and years of education and studying, he felt no peace at the end of it, and he wished that he hadn't studied at all. And this is because when we're studying and we're educated, we're constantly given lots and lots of signboards. For example, if you're crossing the street, this happened to me when you're being in Tokyo, for example, there's just so much being thrown at you one after another that you get tired because you just don't know quite where to look. So Guruji's given an example of crossing the road, and there's lights moving, and there's signboards continuously one after another, and adverts. And you start to read things, for example, BPL Mobile or Reliance, and you have no need to read those things because all you need to do is cross the road. But your mind starts to see those imprints and you focus on those things, and your mind subconsciously starts to analyze these things, and it creates a disturbance in the mind, and the mind becomes tired. So if a person continues to see these signs and adverts, this tiredness then increases. On the other hand, if you're just a passenger in a car, you're able to close your eyes without reading all of these signs, and you're able to sit in silence and not get tired, and you feel power. So this is why Guruji is likening this example to when we sit down and meditate for 10 minutes, even if it's in a bright room. We close our eyes, and even for those 10 minutes, when we reopen our eyes, we feel a lot more power and a lot more focus. So this is the power of the meditation. All your energy that you've been wasting is actually then preserved, and your viewpoint is strengthened, and you're able to think clearly. It's therefore very, very important or worthwhile experimenting with this. The mind goes where the vision goes, and when the mind goes, then one's assurance goes away, and turbulence begins, and one's one-pointedness is broken. So therefore, you may ask yourself, what is it that we should do in order to fixate our mind into one place, and how should we do this? And Shri Krishna describes this in the next verse. So we turn to verse 14.